Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rogue Cat RomComs with me, your host, Julia. I thought I would try natural light again today because it's a bright, sunny, beautiful September day, and I wanted to get this done before nightfall. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, hopefully it is nice and light and warm and not just kind of washed out and weird. This week, we will be looking at the 2006 film Catch and Release, starring Jennifer Garner and Timothy Olyphant. And I wasn't expecting to do this one. I hadn't had this planned out for a while, but I saw it on Netflix and it caught my eye from sort of a nostalgia perspective. I remembered having watched it and having kind of mixed feelings about it when I was younger. I imagine somewhere in my early 20s, which is when it came out. I think it's fair to say that I have seen almost all of the romantic comedies that have been released in the last 30 years, at least in American and Canadian markets and, the English language. So it's not surprising that I'd already seen it, but so it came up on Netflix and I thought, hey, what the hell? I remember that movie. But I don't remember loving it, so I thought it could be fun to revisit it and kind of get in the next, I don't know if you can say vintage for 2006, but let's just say vintage romantic comedy to kind of go back, as we continue to go back and forth between sort of today and older ones. So as I've done with the previous films, I watched the movie and then I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes and it was a fail. I think it's the lowest one I've done so far. It was 22%. Whew, that's rough. So it was not well received, and I guess I'm not super shocked, but I'll say now that I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I liked it. I enjoyed watching it. It gave me some feelings, and that's nice, and I enjoyed the main characters. I liked the acting of Jennifer Garner and Timothy Olyphant. I definitely have some issues with it, but I know I always say this, but in this case I really am going to try to make it short because I don't need to share every single thought I had about this movie with you. That's not necessary. And if you're here to kind of, I imagine no one's here to actually get really fast-paced information about whether they should watch something, but if by chance you are, I would say it's not the worst way to spend your time, but I wouldn't say like go and watch it, it's amazing, it'll change your life. I don't think that's the case. I'll go through some of the information about it and then talk a little bit about what I thought and what I enjoyed. And then maybe you can just let me know if you agree or if to you the movie sounds more or less interesting now that you've watched this, and if you had no idea that this movie even existed, despite the fact that Jennifer Garner more so, but also I think like Timothy Olyphant has like consistently had work, and I think not had work like plastic surgery, like has consistently been employed as an actor and has done like different pretty well-received TV shows, I think. So at this point people might know who he is more than in 2006, so if you're curious about that, you might want to check it out. But yeah, let me know any thoughts you have about whether or not you would watch it, and if you agree or disagree with any of the things that I say. So a little rundown. It's kind of the Rotten Tomatoes kind of calls it this as well, a dramedy. It's a romantic comedy, but it's not a straight up comedy. It's got a lot of dramatic elements. The first of which would be that it opens on a funeral, which is, it's just pretty somber. I'm not sure how successful a movie can be when it opens on a funeral. At least No, that's not fair. At least if it's sort of a light-hearted, romantic dramedy, it's a bit of a heavy start. So it opens on a funeral. We learn that Jennifer Garner's fiance has just died, and we're watching her basically cope with it. There's a voiceover that comes and goes with Jennifer Garner, and we meet a small cast of characters that are mostly made up of Jennifer Garner's fiance's friends. And at the time when I watched this, I don't remember having realized that Kevin Smith was in it. Kevin Smith from like Clerks and Mallrats and Jay and Silent Bob and all that. It might have been that I didn't really know who he was at the time, but I thought that was he's kind of a fun addition. He's I think he's a funny guy, and he's a pretty good actor, and so I liked seeing that. That was kind of like a sort of nice surprise. And so then so he's one of the friends of the fiance, and she kind of ends up living with them and kind of turning to them, I guess, for comfort. So there's the Kevin Smith character, there's Dennis, and then there's Fritz, I think. Timothy Olyphant's character. There's a thing about names in this movie. I find the names a bit weird, and I as a consistent thing. It's like Jennifer Garner's character is Gray. Her first name is Gray, and then Fritz is like the sort of male lead in Olyphant, and then Grady is the dead fiance, and they're just kind of unusual names. I think it was just kind of probably a stylistic choice that they made. Anyway, so she kind of leans on these guys to get through this, and then she finds out that her fiance was sort of having an affair with with a woman that he was giving money to, and then upon further investigation or whatever, it turns out that that woman had a son, and because Grady has died, she's not getting the money anymore, so she ends up coming to where they live and basically trying to figure out where he is and what to do, and things kind of unfold from there. And it's sort of like a movie of like unlikely friends and unlikely bonds that come from sort of shared grief, I think, is kind of what they're going for. And I understand that. It's not a bad idea for a movie, and it's sort of interesting to have a movie that is sort of structured around a character that you never meet. That's kind of an interesting idea. I don't even think you see a picture, really. So there's all this stuff around this person, and all these ways that these people are connecting about this person that we don't as viewers have access to directly, right? He's already dead by the time the movie starts. So that's kind of an interesting tool. But I think the problem with motorcycle, the worst. Okay, I think it's far enough now. I think the problem with a movie about mourning, about grief, is that it's easy to slip into maudlin, and it's easy to slip into cliches, and I think that this movie falls prey to that a little bit. And I think one of the issues of the movie is the Jennifer Garner character. She is like, at one point, one of the characters refers to her as like perfect.
You know, it makes sense though, her being like that.
Like what?
Kind of perfect.
That is kind of true. And the thing about Jennifer Garner, she's so girl next door. Like, she's like buff girl next door. And she's so sweet, and like the way that they style her in the movie, like her hair is like straight but not in a fussy way. I think it's probably colored, but very subtly so. She doesn't wear much makeup, you know, it's that no makeup look. She was like kind of like oversized, really casual things. She's very kind of natural and unpretentious and not flashy, and she's sort of set against the character of the single mom that the fiance is supporting, who is, you know, super tight clothing, boobs out, makeup, the hair, the whole 9 yards. And it really is kind of an unfortunate contrast between the two women, because those are kind of the main women in the movie, and it really seems to suggest that there are two types. And obviously Jennifer Garner is the one that you love, right? She's the one that you commit to. She's the one that, and she's also the one that you love because one of the friends, the Dennis character, we find out pretty early on that he is in love with her, and then she ends up hooking up with Timothy Olyphant's character. So like, literally everybody loves her. she's just like a woman. There's a line from, I'm going to refer to another rom-com in this rom-com review because we're going peak rom-com here. I think it's Something's Gotta Give, where he refers to, doesn't matter, male character refers to the female character as a woman to love. And I feel like in this movie, Jennifer Garner's character, Gray, is very much like a woman to love. She's like the whole package. She's so pure. She's so sweet and kind, but like funny and dark. And like she's just sort of, I feel like she's not super unique maybe, but like very, I would say probably like pretty generally attractive because of how, I don't know, kind of unfussy and sort of natural she seems, and that's kind of what happens with the Fritz character, I think, and so yeah, the contrast between these two women is unfortunate. I don't think it does anything good for women, but I will give them credit, and I think it is a female writer and filmmaker, so I will give her credit. The film really seeks to humanize the single mom character because it would be really easy to hate her because because of the way she's portrayed. She's portrayed as kind of slutty, dumb, kind of either unemployed or like bad at her job if she is employed. Okay, we just lost the sun. Hopefully that doesn't look too weird. And not really a good mom. That she's portrayed those ways.
Is there a name for this method?
Just open. You can really start to feel your aura change. Feel a light magenta.
What'd he say? You heard him. He say, boinga, 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 day.
Whoa!
Oh my god.
But they really humanize her by the end. The movie really humanizes her, kind of talks about how she is trying her best and just doesn't have the resources, and how the money that she was getting really helped.
I guess I'll quit school and go back to work. Find a daycare for Maddie. All the places I can afford are so kind of depressing. But it'll be all right. It will, you know? It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It always is.
Of course, Jennifer Garner's character, because she's so good, ends up setting it up so that she continues to receive that money after his death. And there's other details that I won't get into because it's not really important. You know, you can watch the film and you'll know, but she does the right thing because she's a good person, because that's kind of what this movie hinges on. And while she's sort of boring, she's not unrealistic, I guess. I find that the Timothy Olyphant character is a bit unrealistic. This is their first kind of womanizer kind of character, and which is sort of surprising. Just want to think for a second. Yeah, I would say that that's fair. Because I love the womanizer character. I'm a huge fan. I think I was pretty enamored by that whole trope of womanizer who finally meets his match, I guess, or something like that, you know, like that gets him to settle down or whatever. Like, I'm all for that. So it's surprising it hasn't come up until our 5th episode. But so yeah, we're very much told that he's a womanizer because in the first 5 minutes of the movie, he's having sex with a caterer at the funeral. So I think it's fair to say that that's how he's being portrayed. But we never really learn very much about him. He's sort of just conveniently available. He's just sort of there, and then, you know, is into Jennifer Garner because apparently everybody is, because she's beautiful, but in this very no fuss, no muss way. Just like me! Right? Yeah, no, I don't look like I just came back from a hike. And when I have just come back from a hike, I don't look like Jennifer Garner when she's probably just come back from a hike. But that's a tangent. And I'm not gonna lie, I would say that Fritz is at least 60% of what I remember liking from that movie back in 2006 or whenever I watched it, because he's beautiful. You get to, this is maybe the first episode where you get to see me just be a little bit creepy, because I can be a little bit creepy about ogling certain men. And 2007 Julia was a big fan of this movie, mostly because of Timothy Olyphant. He's just beautiful. He's all kind, you know, that smirky, attractive, kind of sarcastic, troubled, but deep down he's a good man. You know, that kind of stereotype, or not, no, I wouldn't say it's a stereotype, I'd say it's a trope, a common pattern. And that's definitely him. So I have memories of really liking him, and I wondered, you know, watching this again, if I was gonna like him again. And at first I was just oh, he's a lot, because he is a lot. He's quite good looking and he's quite in your face, and you know, they have this hostile relationship at first, and it's all very fun, you know, it's the good, honest, sincere woman who's, you know, accidentally beautiful, and then the sarcastic womanizer who maybe has a drinking problem, and how they clash because she's so real and she's so good that he is whoa, this woman's different, you know.
What kind of grown woman goes around saying F you?
The kind with a kid.
This is why you're still here, isn't it? To clean up after him.
You have blue paint in your hair.
It's not blue. It's Marrakesh Mystery.
I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting too many of these storylines onto this one, but so it feels a little bit like that. But at the same time, to me, obviously this is a very kind of personal experience, but to me, they have great chemistry, and that can get me really far in a movie, or in a whatever media insert here, but that can get me really far in terms of my enjoyment.
It's Grady's. I thought you might want it. If you don't, you don't have to.
No, thank you.
sporty. I have to get back to work.
Tragic widow, right? If you can't blow off work now, when can you?
I enjoyed this movie partially because I continue to enjoy their chemistry and their acting together, and sort of, because really there's lots of tension between them, and then they kind of cross a line sort of romantically or maybe just sexually. It's kind of unclear, and if you're going to tell a story that way, right, like, you have to have that physical chemistry, or else it doesn't make any sense. So they do. I enjoy their scenes together, and this is the scene. This is the only scene that I remember from this movie, but I remember it because 20-year-old me was just like, damn. I don't know, guys. Is it just me, or like, it's kind of hot? It's kind of hot. It's kind of hot. Like, whew. It's an enjoyable scene. One of the things I love about that kissing scene is that, like, nothing is said, right? It's all acting with their bodies, and it's just great. Like, that's just like high quality, you know? So I enjoyed that scene. I feel like it really hits the right mark. As I was watching this movie, I thought that this might be a nice kind of counterpoint to the critiques I had about Always Be My Maybe, because, you know, so much of that was me talking about a lack of chemistry, and I feel like these two really pulled the chemistry. I think probably because they're stronger actors, like, they're dramatic actors, and I think they're both fairly talented. So yeah, I think that overall the movie is not the strongest, but I do think that it's a good example of the kind of chemistry that I look for and that I enjoy seeing. So for me, it was enjoyable to watch again, and I won't give away the ending because it doesn't really serve this this episode, and, you know, I think you could, you know, I think a lot of people won't have watched this, so maybe you will. But I'll just say that the ending is quite satisfying. It's kind of just like warm feels in the stomach. I just want to jump back to an unfinished point, which is that the Fritz character, the Olyphant character, is just sort of unrealistic. Like, he's over 30, single, seems kind of cynical, seems like kind of a womanizer, but doesn't, like, things seem to work out with them, and he just seems like a really convenient person to just kind of be there for her to, like, move on. The Fritz character is not fleshed out enough for me to understand why he's just sort of available for this relationship. Okay, so I've looked at my notes, And there are so many other things I want to talk about. I don't have the time, but I'm just going to quickly run through a few. Some important and serious, some not so much. The first one, the 2006 style. I didn't notice a lot of it. It didn't feel super outdated, but the Fritz character, I will put in some of his outfits here because holy crap, mid-aughts. Like, he's super attractive, but I was a little bit thrown by like the bell bottoms and the belts and stuff. It was, and the hair, just so like of its time. So that's a bit funny. We should definitely take note of that. Oh yeah, I wanted to include a scene because I was talking a little bit about how like Jennifer Garner her character is so lovable, not like a lovable oaf, but like fallen lovable. And I just want to include this to further show how adorable she is.
Nice dress.
Oh. Oh, this is embarrassing. I never got a chance to wear it. It's a girl thing.
And I also wanted to include that scene because I think it's a good example of like this movie is not dramatic. It's dramatic in that it's a drama. It's dramatic in that it has dramatic elements of a drama, in the sense of a genre. This is confusing. But it's not melodramatic, let's say. It's not like fights and yelling and then like sweeping up in each other's arms and then running through the airport and like stuff that I'm sometimes not a huge fan of because it just doesn't feel very realistic. It's quieter, and this scene where they kind of go their separate ways is quiet, but it to me it's quite moving.
I'll see you.
Wait.
For what? You gonna get out of that wedding dress? That's gonna take a while.
And the dialogue is subtle but clear. It gets across its message, and I like the way that it does that. I thought it was well done. So I enjoyed that element of the film too, the fact that it's more subtle in the ways that the plot progresses and the interactions between characters. You kind of get to read between the lines, and I prefer that to kind of outright like, and now I feel this way, and I'm going to do this thing because you've done this to me, and I, like, just kind of telegraphing everything, or like I said, I don't have that much to say about it, and I do think it's the kind of thing where I could leave the details of the ending out and encourage you to watch it if you're curious to see if you would like it. If you do watch it, or if you have already watched it and you remember enough, I'd be curious to hear what you think about the Fritz character, or if he was convincing or compelling, or if it felt more like a convenient character to put in so that she had someone to kind of go to. And I would also be curious to see what you think of the Dennis storyline. I won't give much away. Dennis basically declares his dramatic love, and she basically says no. And I kind of thought it was an interesting, like, I felt like it was kind of a critique of men putting women on pedestals, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and it was actually more like a commentary on how women don't go for the nice guy, they go for the bad guy, bad boys, i.e. Fritz. I'm not sure. It just felt like a weird detail. So if you have a take on that, let me know. I'd be really interested to hear it. And anything else that you have to say about the movie. I liked it. I'm glad I watched it. I wouldn't say it's great. And I would say that I understand the low score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it kind of worked for me as a kind of low-key, at times sentimental little story about life and death and trying to move on. So let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you're enjoying these videos, and I will talk to you guys soon. See you later.